as for that information. But I think it was just more where Scottie was unappreciated because if you notice by Scottie Pippen, when Michael Jordan left in 93, 94, 95, Scottie Pippen was the best player in the world. If people didn't know that, he led the team in every category. Every category.
Yep.
Scottie got his wings in 1991 when they beat Detroit Pistons. He got his wings then, and he started on that trend from winning 3 championships. When Michael left, Scottie took over. And next thing you know, he was the best player in the world, and people don't know that.
It's FYF Sports, it's Lamont, and we are back with another podcast episode. And today we got to talk about it. Scottie Pippen is the most underrated player in NBA history. I was recently on an episode of the Player's Choice podcast, listening in on a segment called Ask Elder. And I heard Elder Rufus make a alarming statement with regards to the criteria that he uses to rank great players. And he said that he prioritizes winning. Not that winning is his sole criteria, to be clear, but he does prioritize winning over all other metrics. And so I thought it would be fitting to ask him about Scottie Pippen and where does he rank Scottie Pippen, because if it's about winning, Scottie Pippen is one of the greatest winners of all time on one of the most winningest dynasties the NBA has ever seen. Where do you rank Scottie Pippen, a guy that had an integral role in the Chicago Bulls' success? One could easily surmise that team does not win close to 6 championships without the services of a Scottie Pippen. And I was alarmed at his response because his response was much more disparaging of Pippen in the aspect that he was trying to convince the listeners that Scottie Pippen was much more of a role player as opposed to a superstar of the 90s. And when you do your research on the 90s, the one thing that you can clearly see is that Scottie Pippen was far more than just a common role player. He was a superstar of the 90s, similar to the likes of a Charles Barkley, a Karl Malone, a John Stockton, Hakeem Olajuwon. Scottie Pippen was ranked on a year in and year out basis with the likes of those players in the top 10 of the NBA. Not to mention in 1994, when Michael Jordan retired, in an NBA player poll, Scottie Pippen was voted the best player in the NBA by the players. Dennis Rodman actually spoke on this. Dennis Rodman did not mince words when asked about Scottie Pippen. On an episode on First Take, he said Pippen was underappreciated as a Bull, and he was the best player in the world when Jordan retired. He stated, when Michael left, Scottie took over. And the next thing you know, he was the best player in the world, and people don't know that. Rodman said on First Take. Pippen didn't get much time to prove he could be the best player in the NBA. Jordan returned at the end of the 94-95 season and assumed his position as the Bulls' star again. Whatever your opinion on Pippen is, his teammates clearly felt he was a superstar with or without Michael Jordan. So now that we can establish Pippen was a superstar throughout his prime, throughout his era in the 90s, we can now associate his winning with the best of the best. And so when we see a persistent and constant agenda to diminish who Scottie Pippen was, to devalue who he was as a player, to devalue his superstardom, to devalue his role in that Chicago Bull team winning 6 NBA championships, we have to ask ourselves, what is the ulterior motive here? Is it to diminish Scottie so that you can elevate Jordan? That's the only thing that I can see. Is it because you don't want to admit that Jordan played with another superstar and couldn't win without that superstar? I don't know what the ulterior motive here is, but in doing real research, you will clearly see that Scottie Pippen was a superstar throughout his prime in the 90s. Multiple players support these claims. Various player polls support that Scottie Pippen was the best player in the NBA in 1994 when Jordan left. And every NBA player power ranking supports that Pippen was a top 10 player every year in the 90s from 1990 to 1998. Scottie Pippen is one of the top 50 stars in NBA history. I personally have him ranked in the top 20. What he accomplished alongside Michael Jordan was legendary because they won 6 NBA championships together and built a dynasty that changed the NBA forever. More specifically, you guys, Pippen and Jordan formed arguably the greatest duo in NBA history. When looking at Scottie Pippen's accomplishments, it's clear as day to see that he was more than just a role player and that he was a superstar throughout the 90s. The small forward won 6 titles, made 7 All-Star teams, 7 All-NBA teams, and 10 All-Defensive teams, 8 of them first team All-Defensive. Pippen was also the 1994 All-Star Game MVP. To further take a dive into his stats, accomplishments, and accolades, let's just actually take a listen to what he was able to do in the NBA and compare it to other greats. Only 6 NBA players managed to create 18,000 points, 6,000 assists, 6,000 rebounds in NBA history. We're talking about the likes of Oscar Robertson, Clyde Drexler, John Havlicek, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. Scottie Pippen is the 6th. Only 6 players in NBA history have managed to create 3,000 plus points, 1,000 plus assists, and 1,000 plus rebounds in the NBA playoff history. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, and 6 on that list is Scottie Pippen. When we talk about the class of where Scottie Pippen should be placed, he falls amongst the greats. But still, Scottie Pippen has been disrespected throughout his career and still gets the short end of the stick until this day. Now, Pippen did release a book. In Pippen's book, The Unguarded, he revealed a ton of stories from his viewpoint. While his comments on Michael Jordan were misunderstood, it was a way for Scottie to retaliate on the disrespect he's been shown throughout his Hall of Fame career. And I believe he should be allowed to do so because, quite frankly, Scottie Pippen is the most underrated player of all time. When you look at what made Scottie Pippen special, he's arguably the greatest perimeter defender in NBA history. When looking at the greatest perimeter defenders ever, we could say Jordan and Pippen, they formed the best defensive duo, but Pippen was much better than Jordan on that end. Scottie made 10 all-defensive teams over the course of his career, one more than Jordan. As a 6'8" swingman with incredible length, Pippen could legitimately lock up 3 positions, and he did it every single night for the Chicago Bulls. What was amazing about Pippen's defense was his stamina. This was highlighted by Kobe Bryant. The All-Star forward could literally defend a player over the length of the entire court and had no problem doing it on every single possession. Scottie knew his value as a defensive player, and he was arguably the key cog in the Chicago Bulls' suffocating defense that featured the likes of Jordan, Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman, among others. But while parts of Chicago's dynasty throughout the years changed, Scottie Pippen was always consistent because no forward in the 90s could defend like him. Pippen was 2 inches taller than Jordan and weighed 10 more pounds. While it's not out of question that Michael could defend bigger players with confidence, Scottie's size and athleticism helped him take care of the opposing team's best scorers. With Pippen playing lockdown defense, he gave his team the space to dominate on offense. That is because Jordan could focus on being the best scorer of all time, which means no team had a chance at beating the Chicago Bulls. Now, Jordan did win a Defensive Player of the Year, and Pippen never did that, which is a shame. But Pippen's dedication to the defensive side of the ball allowed Jordan to destroy opposing defenses with his offense. Without Scottie Pippen, the Bulls could not consistently form one of the greatest defenses in NBA league history. So when we look at Scottie Pippen's style of play, he kind of reminds you of a poor man's LeBron James. We know that LeBron James is renowned for his incredible all-around talent, and that is why he entered the GOAT debate in recent years. So while LeBron James never got to that level that Jordan reached as a winner, he is recognized as a better all-around player. LeBron is 6'9", 250 pounds, and he does not have a single weakness in his game in terms of skills. LeBron can score from the outside, the inside. He has the size to be a defensive force, even though LeBron doesn't always play defense like he used to. He was and has been a legitimate Defensive Player of the Year candidate throughout his prime years. But LeBron's greatest skill is his playmaking ability because of his unselfishness, which allows his team to prosper. With LeBron being an incredible passer of the ball, he makes his teammates better and allows for more efficient use of the offense. So even when playing with some spectacular offensive players, the likes of D. Wade, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, LeBron himself has played primarily as a playmaker because it meant his team was more efficient on offense. So comparably, while Scottie Pippen was not as physically imposing as LeBron and nowhere near as great, he played in the 90s to a similar extent. So to kind of summarize Scottie Pippen's versatility, Scottie Pippen did not need to be as great as LeBron to help Jordan and the Bulls achieve success. He just needed to be a point forward who locked down the opposing team's best players. Scottie's willingness to defer to Jordan meant his attributes went underappreciated, including his passing ability and all-around game. This just leads us to talk about Scottie and the sacrifices that he made, which ultimately hurt his value when we're talking all-time greatness or where we could potentially rank him. One major reason why Scottie Pippen did not get the credit he deserves is because of the sacrifices he made. Firstly, he was grossly underpaid for the majority of his career. Despite blossoming into a top 5 player in the league, he was making an average salary at best. The Bulls management team could not believe that Pippen would accept a deal like that and took advantage by continuing to build the team and pay Michael Jordan an obscene amount of money at the time. So while Jordan deserved every penny he got, Pippen should have been making over double what he was being paid. And on average with the Chicago Bulls, he was making about $2 million per year. So many will point to the fact that It is Pippen's fault for not negotiating a better deal, which is true. But that led to him being underappreciated in NBA circles. We live in a world where the highest paid people generate the most respect. And that meant Pippen was not on the level of other superstars in the league on a financial level. And this is why people like Elder Rufus have intrinsically ingrained in their brains that Scottie Pippen isn't of the ilk of players like Hakeem or Barkley or Patrick Ewing. Scottie Pippen seemed to undermine his own worth, accepting whatever money was on the table to give him and his family security. But had he been a tad more patient, he could have been paid more and paid like a top 5 player in the game. So secondly, Pippen made sacrifices on the court as well, not just off the court. He defended the opposing team's best players. He played the playmaker role and was forced to do the little things that superstars normally never do. The Hall of Famer was offensively gifted, as he showed when Michael Jordan retired, but focused his efforts to maximize what Jordan brought to the Bulls. So while it would have been foolish for Pippen to not make these sacrifices, they ended up making him the most underrated star in NBA history. Remember, Scottie was a top 3 MVP candidate when Jordan retired and might be the man most responsible for helping Jordan capture 6 rings and place himself as the GOAT forever in 90s fans' eyes. And so I think the last thing that people tend to just gloss over is that without Pippen, the Bulls do not have 6 NBA championships. Quite simply, the Chicago Bulls do not win these championships with Scottie Pippen, I must say again. Jordan said it himself. Without Scottie, he does not win. A player with that much responsibility and power deserves more respect, but he never seemed to get it, whether it was playing in Jordan's shadow or being grossly underpaid. Scottie seemed to fly under the radar at all times, even to this very day. So unfortunately, being Scottie Pippen meant that he would have to play Robin to Jordan's Batman. And we just have to ask ourselves, is that necessarily a bad thing? So based on Scottie Pippen's sacrifices on and off the court, Scottie, once again, is the most underrated star of all time, who helped Michael Jordan and the Bulls become the best dynasty in NBA history. These are the things that made Scottie Pippen great. He has the stats. He has the accolades. He has the three-peats that so many people clamor for. And for those who prioritize winning, he is a winner. His game impacted winning on a night in and night out basis. And so I compel you guys, as you guys listen to NBA debates on this platform or on any other platform, I compel you guys to question people who claim that they prioritize winning. Because if they do prioritize winning, and once again, I must say, winning isn't the only criteria, as Elder Rufus so eloquently repeated about 10 times. If winning is prioritized, then why do people disrespect Scottie Pippen time and time again? They find ways to disparage and disassociate Pippen from the 6 championships to alleviate the conversation and the conversations that must be had on deciding if Scottie Pippen is a top, at minimum, a top 20 player of all time. But again, this is all based on your criteria. And this is only for those who claim that they prioritize winning. Hey, but you guys, this is FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. I want to give a big salute to Players Choice Podcast and then Elder Rufus on the Ask Elder segment for having me on there to have that conversation. And I think after reading the comments, there were a ton of people saying FYF said Pippen is better than Olajuwon. And that is not necessarily the argument I was trying to make. I'm simply trying to make the argument that if you do prioritize winning, then how can you put Olajuwon over Scottie Pippen? They were both top 10 players of their own decade, but Scottie Pippen was the much greater winner on all levels. And when you see people intentionally drop Scottie Pippen, that tells you right there, they don't truly prioritize winning. They only prioritize winning when it comes to conversations around their favorite player. And if you did prioritize winning, you would make those tough decisions. And even with players you don't necessarily favor, whether it's John Havlicek, whether it's Bill Russell, if you don't respect the era that he played in because of competition, if you truly respect winning and you prioritize that over all else, then these are the players you must elevate. And if you're not willing to do that, then your criteria is massively flawed, as we clearly saw when I was on Players Choice Podcast. But you guys, it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. Make sure you guys spam up the comments and let me know your thoughts on this particular topic, because I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And I am really big on people with consistent takes. If you set forth some groundwork with regards to criteria on how you rank players, make sure you are consistent with that criteria and don't wildly fluctuate your criteria based on the names that we are speaking about in the moment. So I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments about this. Definitely when we go live, I would love to elaborate on this a little bit more. If people want to speak on Hakeem Olajuwon, Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant, even Tim Duncan more, I would love to continue that conversation, because I think it is an interesting perspective to come from. And it is a question that a lot of people shy away from honestly answering. Why is Scottie Pippen so underrated, and why are so many people trying to convince us that he was just a role player and not a superstar? But it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. We will be back with more sports and news. But until then, it's FYF Sports, and we out.